If there's a founder that's watching this and they want to be funded by Maelstrom, right? Like, what are the top 3 things that you look at when investing in a project? Let's talk about Maelstrom, right? Your sort of tagline is "We are entropy," right? And
Yeah.
you're the family fund of Arthur Hayes. So how did all this start?
Yeah, so like the grandfather of Maelstrom was BitMEX Ventures,
Right.
which Arthur founded BitMEX back in the early 10s, 2013, 2014.
2014. Right.
Yeah, and BitMEX Ventures was spun up in 2018 to deploy this capital that they were sitting on. Right, at that point, BitMEX was by far the largest exchange in the world. It was 80% of global volume in terms of dollars notional. So there was just a lot of accumulated retained earnings that they wanted to invest in something. There's like, what do we do with this? So BitMEX Ventures was formed in 2018. I joined the team in 2019. It was a pretty successful fund. We were in the first rounds of a number of unicorns or near unicorns, got liquidity on most of those positions by the end of 2021, 2022. Probably pretty good time to exit. And then, in around 2022, the middle of it, we started, by then I was head of corp dev. And started thinking about the next phase. What do we do with this now? This mandate, should it change? Should it evolve given the new market structure? And we decided it makes more sense to kind of spin this strategy out into Arthur's family office directly, so that we can just kind of skip the bureaucracy of an exchange and move quickly and nimbly, invest in cool projects that don't necessarily need to have synergies with BitMEX. And that's what we've been doing. So we got that up and running in 2023, January.
Okay. And then what would be like the total AUM right now?
We don't disclose that, but it is, north of 9 figures.
Okay. And how is a family office different from a typical VC fund?
So family office, there's only one investor, right? In this case, which is Arthur. So there's no outside LPs, no outside limited partners who, we have to like go through cumbersome kind of administrative processes with.
Right.
Less overhead. We can be more nimble. We can do more interesting things. We can negotiate more bespoke deals. And as a result, the returns are also entirely Arthur's. So I think you get a more motivated investor. Personally, I see it as, as if you're like a founder and you're courting capital, I think you would have a more motivated investor if you know that the guy who you're speaking to or the girl you're speaking to, it's all their money on the line and all the profits go to them if this goes well. So they're motivated to care.
Okay, and what's the thesis that you guys usually invest on?
Yeah, so that we started off with back in January 2023 with this mission of let's do everything in the staking ecosystem. That's just, we're a very lean team, and we're trying to change that. We're expanding. We'll be hiring more people soon, but we can only kind of take one theme at a time. So that was like, okay, let's run with this for now. Let's do all the LST stuff, all the LRT stuff. So we invested in, like EtherFi, as you mentioned, Athena, we did Pendle, we did Rated, which is like an observability platform for, the LST space, Ion Protocol. We did a bunch of these deals, and many of them are going to TGE in the next couple months, and I think they'll all go pretty well. But that was kind of the initial thesis. This year, we'll focus a little bit more on DeFi and consumer apps and indexes and things like that.
One interesting thing I noticed that out of the 5 people on your team currently, 4 of them are from Wharton, right? So you just like exclusively hire from there?
We don't exclusively hire from Wharton. It just happens to be that was, when we're really strapped for time, it's very hard for me to do a wider process. So we just kind of went to the Penn Blockchain Club. We're like, who are your brightest people? Let's talk to them. And that's kind of how we started. But we will do a wider process. We will diversify and get people from not just Wharton, ideally.
And what's the average ticket size that you guys put in?
We typically, for seed stage deals, we typically do 100K to 250K. That number has been changing now. We've been pushing higher, but that's our target. We target 1% ownership with 100K to 250K. We do mostly pre-seed, seed, and occasionally things in the open market.
Right. If there's a founder that's watching this and they want to be funded by Maelstrom, right? Like, what are the top 3 things that you look at when investing in a project?
The most important thing for us is founder quality, quote unquote, and that's obviously a subjective term.
Right.
But I think of those qualities, integrity is the most important one. That is this founder someone that we can trust? There's a lot of room for founders to kind of do things that could harm the project, whether intentionally or unintentionally. and we just look to make sure that the person is intellectually honest, is emotionally honest, and just a good person. So that's like that's our highest priority. So I'd say, as a founder, don't be an asshole. That's number one. Number two, with the project itself, are you solving something or are you replicating a business model just because you think it worked in TradFi, so it should work in crypto?
Okay.
I think that's a really flawed way to look at it. So I think, so you often see that we're like, oh, we're going to be the X of crypto. It's not, it isn't, we don't need that. It's a new industry and new rails. The business models are going to be bespoke and new. Those are the kinds of business models we try to focus on. That's the second thing. Third area, I'd say your ability to hire is everything. Because you may be a star core developer or a star storyteller, but if you can't scale your efforts with a high quality team, you will plateau very quickly. So yeah, I think those are the three.
So founder quality have like a unique business model and the ability to hire, right?
Yeah.
On the second point, right? Like earlier, as you mentioned, the tokens are so different from equities and you have like different advantages to that.
Yeah.
Do you think there might be some products or offerings in Web2 or like in TradFi that can be much better, but instead of equity when you push in a token, right? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, you see it in the DPIN space. We're starting to experiment. So the first couple of deals we did, well, first of the handful of deals we did, two of them were DPIN deals. They weren't called DPIN back then, and about a year and a half ago. That's kind of a new moniker, and that's funny in crypto. It keeps coming up, right? We just kind of repackage the same concept with a new name. But we did a couple like real world application deals, and I think the crypto tokenomics model is ideal for coordinating resources, coordinating disparate actors to work together, capital formation efforts included, to solve problems. And you're seeing that especially in DPIN.
Right. So you were a private equity associate, and I'm sure now you've done like so many token deals, right?
Yeah.
So for you, how do you look at equities versus token?
With Maelstrom, we prefer token deals.
Okay.
It's just like if it's the fund strategy, for obvious reasons like liquidity, price discovery more quickly. Also, I think more importantly, and this is often understated, like venture deals are illiquid for a reason, right? It's to prevent you from kind of reacting to a swing from 1 month in either direction.
Right.
But in crypto, we have the opportunity. The most important part is to double down on projects where we feel like, if a project we're backing, let's say, it's in the public domain that we're backing Pendle pretty aggressively.
Right.
I think when we see the price of Pendle dropping, we double down, right? Because we're like, we have a certain prediction for where it should be. And that opportunity doesn't exist when you do equity deals. So that's one of my favorite parts about doing token deals, is that you get to double down and back strong projects that are underpriced for reasons that are not rational.
How do you do that? Is it through like secondary deals, or do you just like buy it off the market if the token's already live?
A mix, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, secondary sometimes, or if the token's live, OTC or even just in the open market.
Right. And do you like cut your positions as well if like you've slightly like started turning bearish on a project?
Yeah, we haven't gotten to that phase yet. We're pretty new, right? We've been doing deals since January 2023.
Okay.
And since that time, we've done 37.
Okay.
That'll come.
Right.
Not yet.
And what's the flow chart like when you have to invest in like any project, right? You first set up like a call, you do DD and stuff like that. So what is that entire flow chart of deploying capital?
Yeah. So our setup, it's not quite ideal yet. I'm working on it. We're scaling the organization, but right now I'm top of the funnel, right? So like I have to take every initial call and then kind of send it back to our research guys and our analysts, to kind of like take it down the process to run DD. And then it kind of goes back to me for like the final negotiation. Right now, that's not really efficient, and that's why I'm very hard to get in touch with. Yeah. And I do have to move around meetings a lot, and it's very frustrating for me and other people who I'm doing business with. Right. So right now I'm trying to hire someone on the kind of the top of the funnel BD sort of mindset, but we're being very selective on that front because we want to make sure it's someone who really is thoughtful and not just just like a hired hunter.
Right. And what all points do you look at when you're doing the DD for any project?
Yeah, just everything. I mean, we have to review the the diligence work of the lead, because usually they're like large institutions. Uh, they've done more technical DD than we are even set up to do.
Right.
So we review everything there. We consider all of the like operational considerations, regulatory considerations, the business model, the stickiness, the potential lasting power, staying power beyond one cycle. I think there's some of the soft. I like to meet the founders in person if I can, but it's hard nowadays. But that's why conferences are wonderful.
Right.
There's a lot of the soft stuff, and then we also do a lot of extensive, just like background checks.
Mhm.
Calling people in the industry. Hey, have you heard of these guys? What's your thought on them? Yeah, like just it's a full scope diligence
Right.
process.
For people who are trying to reach out to you to pitch, right? What's a good cold DM template that you would read?
Those are very hard for me to respond to. I think the best source of deals is when it comes to my network.
Okay.
Right. It's we do get a lot of pitches that are like emails, and I think from a volume perspective, it's too much to go through in depth.
Okay.
And also, it doesn't really suggest that much creativity.
Okay.
There's other ways to reach us.
Got it.